Attention, my loyal subjects. The time has come for Clash Royale League. Today, two premier teams in Europe aim to right the ship after tough losses. Will Team Dignitas and the golden-haired golden boy IMJP get it done? Or will Surgical Goblin and Team Liquid prevail? There's only one way to find out.
Hello and welcome to Clash Royale League. I'm Rich Slayton. Joining me is Andrew Guy as we kick off the 5th week of competition here in CRL. The standings in the EU are really tight, especially looking for those 3rd and 4th spots.
Absolutely. You look at Team Dignitas here, and they're in a 3-way tie for 3rd place. Team Liquid, though, surprisingly in 6th place at 2 and 3, maybe looking to make some changes today, Rich.
But of course, even one win right today puts them back in contention for those playoff spots, the top 4 competing, of course, for a shot at the World Finals. And later today, 2 more teams making an appearance. It will be Allegiance versus G2. But right now, a big-time matchup here in Europe. It is Team Liquid up against Dignitas.
Yeah, we got Dignitas here coming off of a tough loss from Team Queso, getting straight swept. But we've got Max Lemanos, Wonka, Messi 10, and IMJP, of course, their opponents. Team Liquid, we're very familiar with these guys, but Buffmac making his CRL debut. We got Azili's Diego B and, of course, Surgical Goblin. You wonder, with Buffmac making his way maybe into the lineup, if we're going to see Surge in 1v1.
Yeah, Buffmac is active today. We have not seen him active yet here in CRL. Very excited. And the Englishman is standing by right now with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. So Team Liquid, a team of giants, great players, but you have lost the last 2 in a row. So what are you changing it up today to bring home that W?
I think for 2v2, we're just like trying different combinations. I think me and Diego will work really well together.
Oh, so you're in the 2v2 today?
Yeah.
So what can we expect? You got any tricks up your sleeve?
I don't know, I just guess communication should be very good.
I'm excited to see it. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. Buffmac giving us some inside information. Yes, he will be playing today in the 2v2 with Diego B. A lot more information to be found out, of course. The full lineups and card bands coming at you right now inside the war rooms.
Vamos. Right, boys. We've got Team Liquid standing in front of us. We're going to do exactly the same we did to G2, we did to SK. We're going to knock them down. Right, bands for 2v2, Tornado and Lava Hound. This is exactly what we wanted. We've prepared for this. We know the bands, we know the decks. We're just going to go out there. 2v2, so important, boys. You know we want JP going into his best of 3 with no pressure. He can relax. JP, Balloon and Prince. Again, it's exactly what we wanted. No one wants to let you play Balloon. But, I mean, it's the same day, different stuff, boys. We go out there, we do our job. All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Dig win!
We prepared for this all week. We're more prepared for this match more than ever before. Diego and Charlie, you guys have been destroying the practices against the best teams out there. Surgical, you're the most accomplished player in the world. I have absolute confidence in you to take it home in the 1v1 set. So let's get out there. Let's show them what we're really made of. Let's go Liquid on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go Liquid!
Nothing beats the power of teamwork, whether it's 2 archers working in tandem or a duel of golemites side by side. Now, Wonka and Max Lemenes, Diego B and Buffmac, let your 2 hearts beat as one in the 2v2 showdown. On to the arena!
2v2 action on its way. We have Wonka and Max Lemanos showing up for Dignitas. Across from them, Diego B with the debuting Buffmac for 2v2s.
Yeah, Wonka and Max Lemanos, they've been the 2v2 duo for Dignitas. Now, despite being 2 and 4 overall, they work together the best on the team, so you got to stick with what works best for you guys. And then Diego B coming out with Buffmac today, kind of surprising because Surgical was saying that he has the best communication here in 2v2. However, needing to start to win these matches, he's got to move into 1v1. You got to think the best player in the world is going to be in 1v1. I'm so excited to see what Buffmac and Diego B are going to do today.
Card bans for 2v2, it's Tornado and once again Lava Hound.
Yep, we've seen these 2 cards banned over and over and over in 2v2. Now, despite having new decks in this 2v2 meta. It's surprising that the card bans never change.
Yeah, you know, we saw the same card bans over and over for the first 2 weeks. It was a lot of Poison, a lot of Fireball, a lot of Tornado, and now it's been Tornado, Lava Hound over and over again, kind of driving the game to a ground battle as opposed to keeping it in the air.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go.
Game number 1 on its way. Buffmac and Diego B for Team Liquid at the top of your screen. At the bottom, Dignitas, Max Lamanas, and Wonka.
Really, really curious to see how the communication is going to be between Diego and Buffmac in this very first game.
Talking with Buffmac before the match, he was saying that it is a little distracting to talk out loud. He's not a regular streamer, but that's what they've been focusing on. Getting used to making sure he says everything he does, both defensively and offensively, before he does it, and make sure that he and Diego know what they're doing together.
Yeah, it's been pointed out by every single team, manager, and coach that communication in 2v2 is the most important thing, and right there, you saw the communication between Buffmac and Diego was perfect. With all the spells coming in, the minor, it was just a really, really soundly executed push.
Picking up that Royal Hog split there in the middle. They do escape for a bit of damage, but not significant here.
And that minor bats combo has been so effective for Buffmac and Diego.
It's a very frustrating combination, Andrew, because you have to address it, even though those bats, you don't always have a cheap spell in cycle for them.
Exactly. It's such a cheap but very aggressive push because those bats do so much damage when left just undefended against.
And there's a cycle log just to get your next card in hand.
And a cycled miner again, and luckily they were able to pick it up, but still dropping a bunch of elixir to pick up the one miner.
And this time looks like Buffmac and Diego B have the appropriate hands and cards in hand with that Tombstone Fireball combination to clean up those Royal Hogs. And now a Royal Hog push of their own on the left-hand side, picked up by the Valkyrie.
Yep, with those bats behind supporting, once again, just so nefarious, picking apart that Valkyrie, supporting those Royal Hogs.
As we get closer to double elixir time, it is Team Liquid with a nearly now maybe 1,500 hit point advantage on the left-hand side.
And their cycle is so quick. It feels like there's always a miner coming down and there's always bats behind it. Just a really, really tough deck to defend against here. You almost feel like Wonka and Max are really just trying to figure out, what do we do? How do we even catch up? How do we stay ahead? And it feels like they're not going to be able to in this very first game.
Well, so far, a lot of good defensive answers for Team Liquid. Buffmac showing that he does deserve to be in this 2v2 lineup, despite being on a team with 3 of the most heralded players in Clash Royale.
Yeah, absolutely. You wonder how you're going to stand out when you're on a lineup with Diego, Azilis, and Surgical, but today he's doing a really great job in his debut here at CRL.
That was nearly a very dangerous push coming in for Dignitas, but nicely picked up with the bats there at the river.
Yeah, and it looks like Dignitas is just going to come up a little bit short, knowing that they're in spell cycle range. They've got the Fireball. This is going to be a Game 1 win for Team Liquid.
Well, Dignitas could still send us to overtime. It is potential with 5 seconds left. They might have a spell. You know, I don't see one in cycle that's strong enough. That's going to be it. You know, we've seen, you were definitely right. It seemed like Liquid had that in control the entire time.
Yep.
You know, it seemed maybe they could get a spell in there fast enough to send us to overtime, but Liquid still seemed like they had the game in hand.
Yeah, Liquid really felt like they were in the driver's seat the whole game, and you saw from like even this initial push of just the guards, the bats, the miner, so much damage being done by such cheap troops. However, Dignitas did bounce back, I'd say 3/4 of the way through the match, and they made it much closer. I mean, if there was 10 more seconds of the game, we would have gone to overtime.
Here's a really interesting note on the stats here, Andrew. A big difference in building elixir spent. So you had 3 of those tombstones dropped to respond to those Royal Hogs. None by Dignitas.
Yeah, that Tombstone, such a cheap card. We've seen it banned now in 2v2 and 1v1, but it's such a great response to those Royal Hogs. You wonder if Dignitas is going to make a bit of a change.
Game number 2 on its way. Once again, your card bans Tornado and Lava Hound. And looks like we're having a little bit of a shift up here. Dignitas maybe going the same way again. Team Liquid looks like they're potentially changing things. I don't remember seeing some of those cards in their hand last time around. Interesting note here on Buffmac, who's not quite as well known as his teammates. Still a fantastic player, has been number 1 on the ladder, has finished 23 globally on the ladder, and of course was number 1 at his CRL EU qualifier.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely heralded. You know Liquid's going after the best players in the world, and that was actually a really nice first push by Dignitas. Liquid just didn't have the appropriate cards in cycle now with getting through their first little round of cards in their hand, they'll probably adjust accordingly.
You know, this might actually be the same deck. I don't remember if that P.E.K.K.A was played last time or not. Maybe it's just sitting there because it doesn't have a good answer, that it's a thing that it's answering for.
Yeah, that was the only difference that I thought I saw too, but that was because it wasn't played last match. I don't know if they had it though.
So, interesting note on Buffmac. He beat Pompeo at the MGL Worlds in 2017, and in that best of 3, he ran the exact same graveyard deck all 3 times.
Yeah, and Pompeo being heralded is one of the greatest players in the world, especially when it comes to Lava Loon decks. And there's that P.E.K.K.A coming down for the first time, going to clean up that push really nicely and create a strong counter push. Yeah, if you beat Pompeo, then you should be paid attention to.
Well, I asked Buffmac about why he ran that same deck all 3 times, and he said that he was actually running the same deck to be unpredictable. You don't expect it 3 times in a row. And again, there's some of that deck choice gamesmanship.
Absolutely, and we've talked about it here at CRL. It doesn't seem like the best idea to run it a deck back-to-back, especially if you've lost with it the first time, but your opponent's never going to expect you to run the same deck that you just lost with. So it is really just all about gamesmanship. It's very hard to strategize.
Pretty even as we enter into double elixir time. One more thought about Buffmac and that strategic choice. As a teenager, he was one of the top-rated chess players in his age group in all of the UK, and his manager Zeke says that he thinks that translates very, very well to what some people consider an active speed version of chess here at Clash Royale.
Yeah, we've heard pros describe Clash Royale as speed chess with also the mechanics of like where you place units down, but I think that's a great metaphor, or what's the word I'm looking for, comparison, because it's really all about strategy and adjusting and heads-up gameplay as the match moves on.
Well, we've seen a lot of players here at CRL taking value in their other exploits, whether it be someone who has experience on a sports field and that makes them more comfortable playing in front of people, or in this case, Buffmac's chess background making him feel like he can think multiple moves ahead from his opponents.
And that's such a big part of this game, is the predictive play. We know that. We've seen it so many times change the outcomes of matches just by one predictive play.
The Miner continuing to be the MVP for Team Liquid on the right-hand side, but now we have some significant damage on the left. So as we go into sudden death, it is actually Dignitas with a slight lead on both towers.
Yeah, Dignitas kind of getting away with one there, luckily getting on top of that Dark Goblin with the Miner taking it out very quickly, and then the Miner was tanking for a minute there, giving them the damage lead.
The Tesla picking up the Royal Hogs once again, but now their tower down to under 600 hit points. And with this Miner, this could very well be it.
Yeah, that Miner's going to come in. It's definitely going to be within spell cycle range here, but...
Oh, can they take care of these Royal Hogs? They might get him. Wow. Oh my gosh, down to just 33 on the right-hand tower. Did not have a second spell to back up that hit. And you wonder, you see the finish line right in front of you.
Yep.
You make a run for it, and sometimes you forget to look what your opponent's doing.
Yeah, I honestly bet Liquid really wishes they could get that Fireball back. And there's the Miner that comes in and gets on top of the tower after taking out the Dark Goblin. Really a nice push for Dignitas, which set up the win here. And as you see, the Miner comes down on top of Dignitas' bottom right tower, but there's such a big push here on Team Liquid's left. And they take out the Tombstone with the preemptive Fireball. We were just talking about how important predictive play is, and that is exactly what changed the game for Dignitas.
And you can see this time a big difference in building elixir spent. Now Wonka and Max Lamanas using that Tesla to respond to those Royal Hogs.
Yeah, the Tesla's not the best response to the Royal Hogs, especially after its nerf, but it's still going to pull them to the center. It's still going to do damage, and if they have any units around to support, it's going to get cleaned up pretty quickly. 16 cards in play,
Let's go.
Game number 3 underway. Andrew, again, talking with Buffmac before the match, he was saying that responding to misplays at the bridge is one of the most difficult parts of 2v2. Even one misplay can make a bridge moment so valuable, and we just saw that in the last game.
Yeah, the unpredictability of how many cards your opponent is going to play in defense or in offense in one moment is really a big game changer here in 2v2. We've heard so many players and coaches talk about that specifically. You can have 0 units down and then all of a sudden 8 to 10. And how do you respond to that accordingly if you've just spent all your elixir?
And now here we go, heading back to, well, you might say it's the traditional 2v2 meta. It's a Golem push developing in the back for Team Dignitas.
Yeah, and it looks like Liquid opted to take out the regular P.E.K.K.A and put in the mini P.E.K.K.A. Also a wonderful response to tanks, especially coupled with the Inferno Dragon and a Tombstone.
Well, you got to feel good also saving that 3 elixir.
Yeah, absolutely. You try to go quicker. You saw in the very first game with Team Liquid here, the cycle was something that Dignitas had trouble keeping up with. However, this is a good amount of well, now they're going to clean it up. You always wonder. It looks like everything's so healthy, and then it just all dies.
That's what it feels like in 2v2. You have so much coming across the board, but there are so many spells in response again. You have 20 elixir and 16 cards coming in down your pipes.
And that's what's so impressive is the elixir management by these pros, knowing that things are going to get cleaned up, knowing they're going to spend 2 more elixir on a zap or a log to clean up those final troops, that it looks crazy, but it's all going to be all right.
Interesting. I wonder if that snowball on the right-hand side was a little bit further outside than Dignitas intended, not really doing anything to those Royal Hogs. So again, as we get close to double elixir time, things are pretty much neck and neck here between Team Liquid and Dignitas. Andrew, I was talking with Coach Ben from Dignitas, and he said the skill level in Europe is very, very high, and that's part of why everything's been so even. And a big part of that, he says, is because the European players have a lot of experience playing on the live stage, whether it be in QLash or SLO. The American players, still very talented, but it might be a little bit more of a difference between those players because not all of them play live, whereas here in Europe, so many of them do, just because of less travel distance.
Wow, and this is a huge push coming in on the left side, and that's a very great point. I mean, we saw Frost from 100 Thieves, how nervous he was, still being able to bring home that win for his team, but he was even saying, like, I couldn't feel my fingers, my hands were shaking. Like, that is a real big part of the gameplay, and an excellent push by Dignitas there. Liquid not being able to respond to the golem push, and it probably looks like they're going to take this very first set, leaving it all on Surgical Goblin to push to King of the Hill.
And there's a much better snowball there. I mean, they had plenty of troops to clean up those Royal Hogs, but that looked like it did what Dignitas wanted. And here we go, Team Dignitas showing up in 2v2. Buffmac, still a very talented player, maybe wasn't that many moves ahead of his opponents.
Yeah, well, you know, the communication, this is the first time the two of them have been on this stage together, Diego B and Buffmac. You gotta wonder if that comes into play when Wonka and Max Lamanas have now played 7 2v2 sets together.
And improving their 2v2 set record to 3 and 4. And you gotta feel like JP is very happy to be going into his 1v1 set with a bit of a cushion.
Yeah, and that was just a downhill push, and that's where you wonder if they should have kept in the regular Mama P.E.K.K.A instead of the Mini P.E.K.K.A. The Mini P.E.K.K.A got cleaned up by that Prince really, really quickly there. The Tombstone Skellies were just a hair late, and that Mini P.E.K.K.A going down so quickly makes that Golem stay alive much longer. And
this time going with the same, or at least essentially the same deck 3 times in a row with some minor changes not working out for both Buffmac and Diego B here in the 2v2 set. And so now next up we have 1v1. Of course, IMJP has been fantastic, but he is up against one of the best in the world in Surgical Goblin.
I don't know about you, but I was camping outside all night to get front row seats for this one. And it's my castle. Global great Surgical Goblin in one corner, golden-haired golden boy IMJP in the other. An epic 1v1 showdown is here. This, my friends, is what it is all about.
1v1 head-to-head on its way between one of the most decorated players in Clash Royale up against one of the new emerging stars in head-to-head play in IMJP.
Yeah, we got IMJP. He's 3-3 overall in 1v1 sets, and he's 5-1 in King of the Hill, showing that he belongs in CRL, and he is one of the heaviest hitting single players out there. And then Surgical Goblin. We all know who he is, #1 in the world. It seemed like Liquid was trying to keep him on the back burner until they got to playoffs, but now recognizing that they need to get in those top 4 spots, putting him in the lineup.
The ban cards, Prince and Balloon. We heard in the war rooms, of course, that IMJP feels like they're banning Balloon specifically for him, and but he's prepared to deal with that card ban.
Yeah, and we've seen how much these bans can play into the matches and how much the strategizing goes into which cards are banned and what your opponent's going to play.
1v1 starting right now. Surgical Goblin for Team Liquid at the top of your screen, IMJP at the bottom. A matchup of 2 very talented 1v1 players.
Yeah, I'll be honest, that 2v2 set was fantastic, but I am so excited to see these 2 heavyweights go against each other and see what they're going to bring. Surgical playing such little amounts of head-to-head here in CRL, whereas IMJP has so many decks that we've already seen him play.
Very versatile is the Spaniard IMJP. Right now, just being content to sit back and not play too aggressively in the open.
Immediately see this Electro Wizard and Royal Ghost, which has been going with that P.E.K.K.A deck. However, the minions are not in it.
And a big tower activation to start things off for Surgical Goblin. Nice standard play, kind of letting, almost baiting in that Royal Ghost and putting him right on the tower.
Yeah, and it looks like Surge here might be running some sort of beatdown deck with the Lumberjack and the Baby Dragon and the Mega Minion.
Some very common Golem paired cards here for Surgical Goblin. As we look at their records, Surgical Goblin, of course, extremely well decorated in head-to-head matchups throughout his career, but at CRL, he has only played 7 with a win rate of 3 and 4, whereas IMJP has played over 21 head-to-head games with a positive win rate of 12 and 9.
Surgical getting great fireball value off of that little clump of units there from IMJP. And IMJP is recognizing, he knows that he's playing beatdown, so he's got to keep the pressure up. He doesn't want him to be able to golem up until double elixir time. That Lumberjack is going to get through.
When that Lumberjack gets on tower, it can be so frustrating. He's got so he hits so hard and so fast.
Yeah, you feel like you can leave him alone, right? You could probably give him a zap, but even a couple of those hits in is so detrimental.
IMJP overall 3 and 3 in 1v1 sets, coming off of being swept twice back-to-back by Doberman of Allegiance and So King of Team Queso. No shame in that, 2 fantastic players, but you do need to wonder a little bit if he's slightly on tilt here in this set.
Yeah, it messes with your confidence. You come out strong, and all of a sudden what you've been doing that's been working so well just stops working, and you wonder why.
So the Inferno Dragon getting reset, but still doing its job. A lot of DPS there, taking down that Golem before it does much on the tower.
Yeah, and it feels like with the Inferno Dragon and the Miner that IMJP has a bit of a matchup advantage here. That Royal Ghost is on the tower. That is not good. That Mega Knight's tanking. The Lumberjack is going to clean it up, but that's still not what you want.
So Surgical Goblin switching up a little bit and putting the Golem in his own pocket rather than playing it behind the tower, picking up some of that damage.
What a great NATO, taking that Inferno Dragon out of play, now allowing these units to get to the tower. It's not going to be a huge amount of damage, but that was still not the way that IMJP wanted that exchange to happen.
But as we are in sudden death overtime, every hit point of damage really matters. And now it's Surgical Goblin with an ever so slight elixir lead.
Yeah, and with that beatdown deck, that is not the position that IMJP wants to be, and you wonder where that tornado is going to come back in after it was so effective on the last push.
The Fireball taking the Inferno Dragon just a little bit off.
This is not good for IMJP. The full Golem on there, now the Golemites. This is a huge push, and you know he's just going to try to Golem up again.
A lot of damage on this right-hand tower, and if we can get through that Royal Ghost, this could be tower right here.
Royal Ghost, wow.
Surgical Goblin does it once again.
And we've talked about how one play can change the whole game, and you saw that one NATO pulling the Inferno Dragon away, keeping that Golem healthy. Then IMJP had to allocate so much elixir to defense. Like you said, he was at an elixir disadvantage, and there is the NATO. Pulling the elixir was far enough away, pulling the Inferno Dragon, just a really great push, and then he's going to drop a Miner and minions that get cleaned up, just not the way he wants to go. So much elixir. You look, he's at 7 on top here and 4 on bottom.
Now check this out. If we went back a couple seconds before that, you would have seen the Fireball play to get the Inferno Dragon off the Golem, and the Baby Dragon was dropped with the intent of picking up the Inferno Dragon's damage and getting it off the Golem. Still, even with that Dragon being down just a split second too late, enough to get the win and take the first game in 1v1.
And when that Royal Ghost goes incognito, sometimes it's a blessing, and this time it was a curse, not being able to tank for that Baby Dragon and Mega Minion. Surgical Goblin taking game number 1.
And this is it now. Surgical Goblin on the precipice of sending his team to King of the Hill. You know, with some of the struggles they've had so far, they've made some recent changes. One of them, you know, they came into this whole thing without a coach, without an analyst, deciding to rely on their own skill set. And we'll get to that a little bit more once we start game number 2. So to continue that thought, Andrew, they came in, you know, they'd gone through some coach and analyst applicants, but felt like with the quality of their players, no one really was going to do a job that their guys couldn't do. But they've realized over time that doing all the analysis work kind of was distracting them from getting enough practice time in. So 2 days ago, they did finally get an analyst on the team, and that's letting them focus a bit more. And it seems like Surgical Goblin, who the analyst job was really on his back, now a bit more focused, a bit more relaxed here in his 1v1 play.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way it should be. Now, these players are the best in the world. They know the game better than anyone else. However, that is not their job. Their job is to practice and get better, and the analysts are the ones that are there to let them know what they need to work on, and what isn't working, what is working, what the other players are doing. It's such an important position to have here in CRL.
So Surgical Goblin showing some form of bait up at the top of your screen. And here at the bottom, take a look at what IMJP has developing.
Yeah, it looks like probably some sort of graveyard deck, and then maybe Surgical's going to have that mini P.E.K.K.A in there.
Very interesting developments here. Two fairly classic decks going up against each other. Of course, we've seen IMJP be so versatile. He has played a little bit of graveyard, but not a ton.
Yeah, he's definitely found success with it, but like you said, he's only played it a couple times.
We saw him get a win with a Graveyard Poison Inferno Tower deck.
I was going to say, I wonder, after he hadn't dropped the mini P.E.K.K.A for a while, I was like, I wonder if I'm going to see some Royal Hogs here, because he does have a good amount of defensive responses already in his deck. The Ice Golem Kite, one of just the most favorite classic plays in CRL, or in Clash.
And here we go, the Graveyard play for IMJP, supported
And the mini P.E.K.K.A.
supported by that poison. So getting some pretty good damage there on the left-hand side as we get into double elixir time.
I love this play. It's been used so many times, and it's so effective, whether it's the mini P.E.K.K.A completely unsupported, as you just saw, or if it's just like two elixir units behind it. It's such a menacing card, and you have to deal with it. And now all of a sudden, Surge is taking the damage lead, sending in that naked mini P.E.K.K.A, followed by the Royal Hogs.
Requiring a lot of response with Surgical Goblin. IMJP now forced to spend some things maybe he didn't want to. And here we look, IMJP playing that poison, probably not in the spot where he'd hoped he'd be playing it consistently.
Yeah, I mean, he did the work that he needed. He wanted to kill the Ice Golem and the Princess. However, if you can get tower damage, you always want to, and he could have right there.
And that Princess has been on the board for Surgical Goblin for a while now, taking care of a lot of troops here, but now we do see another Graveyard push on the left-hand side. The Princess, though, still in range to help out a little bit at the beginning, but it's the Royal Hogs on the right-hand side now taking that tower down to under 500 hit points.
Yeah, and Surgical's got to be feeling real good. He's going to drop some Princesses here, hope they work their way to the river, even a couple shots in, and then that Fireball Log combo is going to be brutal for IMJP.
But now it's the Graveyard coming down over and over again for IMJP, but this time not having the poison to support that one, and as Royal Hogs get to his tower, they'll take a little bit of damage there for it, down to 422 on that right-hand side.
And great logs from both of these guys, one to clean up the Tombstone, one to knock back the Royal Hogs. Surgical goes in with the Fireball, knowing that victory is so close. Now he just needs the log and another Fireball, and it looks like IMJP is going to not be able to take a game here in this set.
And here we go, the log Fireball, and that is it. Surgical Goblin looks like bringing in the health to kind of get his game focused on what he has to do here on the CRL stage has paid off, and now he sends his squad into King of the Hill.
Yeah, King of the Hill here for these guys is going to be interesting because Dignitas has had a lot more experience. So you see, this is what I'm talking about. That mini P.E.K.K.A is such an incredible card. It demands such a response. It's so fast, and it's still going to get a hit in that does so much damage. IMJP wishing he could get that one back, and Surgical taking that set in 2 games. IMJP has been swept 3 times in a row now, Rich.
Yeah, so that's the big question. Is IMJP tilting in 1v1? Of course, he has still been fantastic in King of the Hill, which we have coming up next. IMJP's overall game record in King of the Hill, 5 wins and just 1 loss. So even with 1v1 not going his way, he has to feel pretty good going into our final game set.
Yeah, it's still a confidence booster when you get swept, but he's so good in King of the Hill, and they've had so much experience Dignitas has in King of the Hill. You wonder if that's going to end up trumping over Team Liquid here in King of the Hill.
And of course, King of the Hill, each team nominates 3 players to represent their squad. Each player gets 1 opportunity to get their win. The first team to take out all 3 from the other side gets not just the set, but the match victory. We've seen one player put his team on their back and sweep all 3. We've seen it go back and forth, back and forth. Of course, both teams need to plan their lineups and choose their ban cards, and that's coming right now inside the war rooms.
All right, boys, we're here again. Going up first, we've got Honka. Second, you got Max. And third, to clutch up if we need him, we got IMJP. Right, boys, bands are Prince and Balloon. We know what we're going to play, we know what they're going to play, so let's go out and win this. On 3, boys. 1, 2, 3, dig win!
Alright guys, Balloon's band, got Azilius started off. Next, we have Charlie, debut. Number 3, we have Surgical. Finish it off strong.
Frank.
I'm just gonna put Surge, boys. All right. Our record in previous King of the Hill, not that bad, but we can start this off strong, boys. Our lineup, it's insane. All right. Each and every one of you by yourself can take out their team. I believe in us. We just have to make good deck picks, play strong, be confident, and we got this. Let's go Liquid on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go Liquid!
Towers have fallen, and elixir has been spilled. But still, the battle rages on. Both Liquid and Dignitas have readied themselves for one last stand, one last chance at glory. It is their time to seize. Let King of the Hill decide it once and for all.
Just 3 opportunities for each team to take this victory for Dignitas. A winning record on the line. For Team Liquid, the chance to go even as we get closer to the midway point of the season.
Yeah, not a really big surprise here seeing Wonka, Max Lamanos, and then IMJP closing it out for Team Dignitas. But what I am very surprised about is Liquid's lineup. We've got Azili's leading it off, Buffmac here in the middle, and then Surge closing it out, which isn't a surprise. But Buffmac making a big debut in 2v2 and in King of the Hill. Excited to see how he holds up here.
The exact same card bans from 1v1 being run back. Looks like Dignitas does not want to face off against that buffed up Prince. And that balloon ban worked great for Surgical Goblin last time against IMJP, so maybe that analyst coming through and realizing there's some wrinkle in IMJP's game that they can exploit.
Yeah, well, you know, the most threatening players on both these teams are Surge and IMJP, so you might as well keep the same card bans that affected them in 1v1.
That would have been the right play.
So Azili's leading off for Team Liquid at the top of your screen, Wonka for Dignitas at the bottom. And as we look at their head-to-head records, neither player has a single win yet in King of the Hill. They are both 0-3, but Azili's is 4-1 in his 1v1 games.
Yeah, we all know Azili's is a king in 1v1 matches. However, it is surprising to see that he hasn't had a King of the Hill win, which is something I was talking about earlier, was that they haven't had a ton of experience and luck here in King of the Hill for Team Liquid.
Wonka mixing things up a bit on his side. You know, we saw him use that off-meta Hog Rider deck that didn't work out for him very well. Here choosing to go a different direction.
Yeah, and Azili's recognizing the amount of elixir and the type of cards played by Wonka, recognizing he can drop a P.E.K.K.A. in the back and then support it with his E-Wiz.
And now that Electro Wizard going to really stop that Inferno Dragon in its tracks. A nice push developing here for Azili's out of France.
Yeah, not the position Wonka wants to be in there. The Electro Wizard staying alive for as long as it did. And Wonka recognizing that is good game. It is just too much elixir spent, not defended well enough. The Mega Knight coming down where it did got destroyed by the P.E.K.K.A. And then you see Azili's just putting the pedal to the metal, bandit down the other lane.
So the Miner nearly getting it done all the way on the left-hand side, and we're about halfway through regulation time, and it looks like Wonka knows that there's not much coming back from this in this position.
There was just the first exchange there was just played perfectly by Azili's, and Wonka just didn't get the troops down where he needed them. The Mega Knight got torn apart by the P.E.K.K.A. The Electro was supporting the P.E.K.K.A., stopping the Inferno Dragon. This is going to be a tough one to come back from.
And you just can't expect Azili's to make a mistake at this point. You look at what he has in his hand, and everything that you see on Wonka's deck, there's a response for in terms of win conditions.
Yeah, this is one of those situations you never want to overcommit to offense or defense in Azili's position. Just play it safe. Take a few hundred damage, several hundred damage if you need to. Know that you need to maintain the elixir advantage and keep your strongest cards in your hand.
So you got to wonder if part of this deck choice was again part of bringing in that new analyst, letting them focus on gameplay and getting some more information, some more detailed information. Again, you're talking about an analyst perspective. If you're trying to split your time between practice and analysis, there might be things that you miss slipping through the cracks.
Yeah, and Wonka's been known to play like an off-meta Hog Rider here in CRL, and if you look at Azili's deck, that is a great counter to Hog Rider, having the P.E.K.K.A. in there, having the Electro Wiz, and then you always got the Miner to send to the tower.
So 17 seconds left. The good game comes out for Wonka, knowing that just that first exchange at the river changed everything. And while, of course, this deck was going to have an uphill battle against Azili's the entire time, those first few seconds were just so damaging.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been in that position before. You make a mistake early on and you can't come back from it, and especially against pros like this and the deck that Azilius was running, you saw as soon as he recognized Wonka had overcommitted, and here it is. So you got the Electro Wiz on the Inferno Dragon and slowing the Mega Knight. The minions plus the Electro Wiz plus the P.E.K.K.A just eat through the Mega Knight. You got a healthy Royal Ghost and a Miner coming down. The E-Wiz is still alive. It's still going to retarget the tower, and so hopefully for Dignitas, Max and Manas can come out here and at least take down Azilius and Buffmac, giving IMJP a little bit of a cushion.
Possibly the fastest GGs we've seen given so far here in CRL. And Azilius now improving his head-to-head win rate into the positive rather than even, and feeling good getting his first King of the Hill victory.
Yeah, Wonka there recognizing early on, as you said, early GGs. Let's see if Max Lemanas can capitalize on maybe a mistake from Azilius.
And for our second King of the Hill game, it is Azilius at the top of your screen, Max Lemanas for Dignitas at the bottom.
Yeah, and asking for Azilius to make a mistake is a pretty tall order. He's being one of the best in the world, as we all know.
So it is Frenchman versus Frenchman here. Max Lemanas playing for the typically Spanish team, and Team Liquid pulling from all throughout the world.
Oh, yes! I was going to say, I think it's a mortar bait deck, and I'm so excited to see it.
Yeah, my partner here is an unabashed mortar bait player. So, you know, as much as you hear me get excited for Expo, you're going to hear him kind of geek out here over mortar.
Totally. I saw the Miner and the Spear Goblins, and I got very, very excited. It looks like he's going to be playing against the Three Musketeers deck, which I hate playing against with mortar, so I'm really, really interested to see how Max is going to do this. And if he ends up winning, then I'm going to study this match over and over and over.
Lots of opportunities for study here from CRL. We have seen some not just standout play, but very interesting deck construction and choices.
Yeah, you see Max knows he made a mistake. Why didn't the Miner get on top of the pump? That's a huge mistake. The best response to the pump is the Miner. Now he has to use his Fireball, which he can't use on the Three Musketeers. You never want to be in that position. Max there making a very slight misplay. This could be a huge change in the game.
2 pumps on the board for Azilius. Got to feel good when you're getting that 9 elixir cost Three Musketeers down.
Yeah, the nice thing is Mortar does do a good amount of damage to the Three Musketeers. However, when you're at that big of an elixir disadvantage, you wonder how much that's going to come back. And you've got 2 healthy Musketeers in the left lane.
Yeah, the Mortar targeting onto the right Musketeer rather than the 2 on the left, so very nice play from the Frenchman. Of course, again, Team Liquid, one of the most diverse teams in terms of nationality here at CRL, with the Netherlands, England, France, and the US all represented on their squad.
And you see that pump coming down again. In this situation, you usually want to push with a troop first. And now he's playing mind games. He's tricking them into thinking he's going to go on top of the pump and then fireballing the pump and all the units to support.
So again, one more time to remind you, just as you can see where where Azilius' picture is on the right-hand screen, there is a pump sticking out just slightly back behind there. And as Andrew was talking about, trying to get the Miner on those pumps, very important here.
There you go. There's the Miner in. Still getting picked up by the Goblin Gang. Great job by Azilius. And then you'd want the Miner to ideally tank for your minion horde. Not going to happen.
So we are in double elixir time, so that does definitely give a little more support for that Three Musketeers.
We could be seeing a lock here soon. Or
you know, we're not supposed to be biased here whatsoever, but, you know, maybe Andrew here excited to see what happens with this Mortar deck.
Well, it's just so great because you look at Azilius in the way that he's playing his defense, and he's picking up that Mortar retarget every single time, whether he's splitting Goblin Gang, whether he's dropping an Ice Spirit, or whatever it may be. He's doing such a wonderful job, and it's almost like a dance between the two of them. Mortar comes down, I got a kite, I got a kite. It's just really great gameplay.
Fantastic work. Again, you can see how tight this game is between both players. And a nice use of the Bandit to take out that Mortar, and now we'll see, can Azilius find a way to the tower?
And that Royal Ghost is probably going to get on the tower unless there's a Miner or a Mortar.
So again, the Mortar getting picked up on the left-hand side, but a Fireball does do a lot of damage to those 2 Musketeers, but the Bandit charge on the right-hand side, and now he might get at least 1 shot. No, nice work with the Minion Horde, not common seen here in 1v1.
But both towers are just barely above 800 HP for Max Lemanas here, and Azilius is just playing this so patiently, always making sure he has enough elixir to distract that Mortar.
High-level professional play from both. Yeah, Andrew, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that Royal Ghost coming in there and cleaning up all of the supporting troops behind that Rascal Boy, that's going to be really tough to come back from.
And the Bandit almost gets another charge, and now we need to see something to pick up from this on the left-hand side, but 2 Royal Ghosts. Is there going to be enough to stop both of them? I don't think so.
Now Azili's doing a great job of recognizing all of Max's troops, for the most part, are squishy troops. That Royal Ghost is going to kill them all in one swing, and Azili's just throwing down more and more Royal Ghosts, recognizing he's going to clean it up, and Max had no response.
And the Bandit on the right-hand side. Now, of course, Andrew, completely unbiased here, but it's got to hurt a little bit to see the mortar go down.
It definitely hurts a little bit, and that's why I talk about how much I hate playing against Three Musketeers, especially with the Royal Ghost in there. Just excellent job of cleaning it up. And this is where the game kind of, you wonder what would have been different if Max would have gotten on top of that pump in the very beginning.
And here you see the finish. The Bandit is sliding right through at the end. At this point, Max, I think, wasn't even worried about mounting a defense. He knew it was over.
Yeah, there's no way he could have defended both lanes. You saw he tried to pick one. The other one's going to go down. Really, really great attempt by Max, but just better heads-up play by Azili's. Very patient, adapting to what his opponent was doing, and then exposing his weaknesses.
Azili's coming in today without a single King of the Hill victory, and now he's just 1 win away from having 3 and evening up his King of the Hill record.
Yeah, Azili's here, like I said, one of the best in the world in head-to-head play, and let's see if he can close this out for Liquid right now.
The man in Azili's way, though, is a tough mountain to climb. IMJP, of course, 5-1 in King of the Hill, and he has clutched twice for his team. We have, of course, that sweep he put up against G2, taking out Sheer, Fairchew, and Canario. And in that match against, I think it was SK Gaming, yeah, where he took both Morton and Matt01.
Yeah, but what we were talking about on the other side of that, Rich, is before his last 3 1v1 sets, IMJP was 7-2 in 1v1 gameplay. Now, 7-10.
He has had 4 1v1 sweeps go against him in a row. And now here we are seeing Expo against Golem, and I'll tell you right now, as an Expo player, I hate seeing a Golem across the line.
I was just going to say, so you and I are both getting taken care of today in our favorite archetypes. How do you feel about this matchup, Rich?
I personally, whenever I see a big beatdown deck, for me as an Expo player, you want to, if you can, time it and get the Expo in the opposite lane. But you see that Azili's, I bet he's going to keep on playing that Golem just a little bit high and not give IMJP that opening.
Yep. When you have a tank that's that strong, you can play him in the middle, as you said, just a little bit high instead of behind the King Tower, and it's always going to pick up IMJP's win condition, the Expo.
That's been a frustrating thing for me in ladder play as of late, the Expo deck being how I've been trying to climb. And with the Prince getting buffed, it also has given more value to the Giant, and so it's been terrible for me trying to play that deck.
Yeah, and you see Azili's very happy to leak Elixir, very happy to let IMJP catch up, because he knows his only way of winning is that Expo. And Azili's knows that there is no way for him to lock on.
So now drops the Golem right in its face, and as an Expo player, you hate that so much. I am feeling for the Spaniard right now.
Yeah, Azili's knows he's got an incredible, incredible matchup. He doesn't even need to support it. Obviously, he's going to, because you want to take damage on that tower, but he didn't even have to. He could have just left it alone, recouped Elixir, and then, maybe cycle cards and started another Golem push.
Tornado and Ice Wizard, though, a very nice combination, and just going to get a little bit of death damage there from one of the Golemites on the left-hand tower.
Yeah, and Azili's still at a slight Elixir advantage here. Going to drop another Golem, you'd think. Although, yep, there it is.
Yeah, having those guards there just to almost to pick up that damage for a second, giving him the time. But this is going to be the battle here. It's going to be IMJP throwing this Ice Wiz over and over again, trying to slow down these pushes and buy himself enough time to get an Expo down when Azilius is out of cycle.
Yeah, you wonder if IMJP is going to maybe try to get 2 Expos down, one defensive to support these huge pushes, and then obviously one offensive to try to get on top of the tower. The Ice Wizards are doing an incredible job here cleaning it up, but still, you're running into a brick wall. You got to get some damage on the tower, and it is King of the Hill, so IMJP already has the lower tower.
And that's the big issue here, is that, remember, King of the Hill, there's no rematches, there's no actual true draws, it's lower tower, and at this point, I don't know if I see a way for IMJP to really, oh my gosh, a tower lock on the left-hand side.
And a missed fireball by Azilius. He only hit the Mega Minion, he misses the Ice Wizard, and this is huge. This tower lock is going to change the entire game. Now, Azilius has to play on his heels, he has to get more damage on the tower.
That is huge, and Azealis knows that play right there might have changed this entire game. Now he has to get a golem. And look, he also cannot press the right-hand side because he has to defend that left-hand side. As an Expo player, that's the exact opening that you want.
Yep, and now he's got the defensive Expo down. It's going to kite the golem over. He's probably going to pick up the Lumberjack exactly, and then he's going to try to get another offensive Expo down. Rich, it looks like your deck archetype could be coming out on top here.
I mean, this is really some wild and fantastic play. It looked like Azealis just gave the small opening, and that's the annoying thing about playing against Expo. One small opening can change the entire game.
Yes, and Azealis here recognizing the cycle, recognizing that IMJP is not going to want to play super aggressive, is going to try to mount this push to really take the damage lead back.
And this is a huge shift. Remember, we are at a lowest tower situation, so IMJP can defend here. Azealis needs to put at least about 1,200 damage on that left-hand tower to have any hope here of getting back in this game.
You gotta think it's gonna be nearly impossible with that defensive Expo down. Before he was doing it fine with just the Ice Wizard and the NATO, and he's got a great cleanup here with the Fireball.
But here, look at that Lumberjack coming through. That could be, oh no, the whole thing gets cleaned up there.
Excellent
Wow.
kite with an Ice Spirit there. Just IMJP recognizing the Lumberjack, just as you as I did, calmly places an Ice Spirit at the top, right in front of the river to pull the Lumberjack away.
And that is the interesting thing about this matchup is it's a matchup of who blinks first, who makes the first mistake.
Yep.
If the Golem player never makes a mistake, typically speaking, that Golem player is going to get the victory in this type of game, at least in my experience. But the Golem, in this case, the Golem does not pick up one single Expo, and that's a huge shift.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It really did feel like the matchup was in Azealis' favor. That one mistake of the missed Fireball could change everything. And again, you get the Lumberjack coming in hot, but that Tornado with the Ice Wizard is so effective.
So nasty, Tornado Ice Wizard, although we have 33 seconds left. We are getting some damage on the left-hand side. Will it be enough? And another Tornado, but a different Tornado to pull the Ice Wizard across. This is a huge play right now from Azealis.
Oh, that's so close. Now we are within 100 damage of each other, 104 damage difference. Or no, yes.
Yes, but you take a look at that, they both have Fireball in their hands, so unless, and yeah, the Fireball log, that's going to put it out of range, and IMJP taking a very big game. Now, some of you at home may disagree with me from a matchup perspective. For me, I am really, really impressed by what IMJP did here.
Oh, absolutely. He played so calm, and IMJP is one of the best in the entire league at taking damage, recognizing when to take damage and play calm and cautious and reserved. And you saw he waited for that one mistake. That missed Fireball from Azealis changed everything.
And there you go, IMJP continuing to be a standout in King of the Hill. And it was the Ice Wiz Tornado play, really doing a good job most of the time. It looked like it was going to be a lowest tower game, and that's what it ended up being. But here we go, the missed Fireball, and maybe just not being a little bit late here. And look, you see Azealis had the Elixir. He had plenty. He just did not pick up that one Expo, and that changed everything.
Yeah, he was so set on fireballing those two units in the middle for some reason. I get it. Sometimes we just get our mind set on something. He saw great value. However, that stopped him from being able to drop units down to pick up the Expo, and as well, he just spent 4 Elixir on just fireballing a Mega Minion.
And even
Not
the
Ice Wizard and a Mega Minion, sorry.
Even the Fireball on the Expo would have saved a lot of that damage and made this thing very much closer as we went forward. So there you go. That's how tight some of these matchups can be. Fantastic play, IMJP once again. And but now across from him, making his head-to-head debut after showing up here in 2v2, it is the Englishman Buffmac. Game number 4 of King of the Hill on its way. Remember, IMJP needing 2 wins to secure the victory for his squad, but Buffmac can clutch it out right now and move his squad to 3-3 in the overall standings.
Really cheap defense there. And you heard Juicy J in the war room talk about how anyone on Team Liquid could sweep the entirety of Team Dignitas, at least in his opinion, and I think IMJP has something to say about that.
IMJP, yeah, looking like 2.1 so far.
2.6.
2.6,
yes.
Sorry. I saw someone put up a 2.1 challenge yesterday on Twitter. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Ash put I think a 2.1 challenge, so that's been in my head.
Oh, really? I got to check that out.
2.6 for IMJP up against what might be that Three Musketeer Royal Hog combination.
Yeah, and it's tough to say who has the matchup ever with 2.6 unless it's just so clearly in the opponent's favor, because with 2.6 you can do anything. If you play it correctly, you can defend almost against anything. However, you wonder if the overwhelming amount of troops from Buffmac is gonna be too much for IMGP to defend with this deck.
Well, 2.6 Hog Rider, of course, for those of you who don't know, meaning the average elixir cost across the troops is just 2.6, making it very fast, getting Hog Riders down over and over and over again. While a very popular deck, one that many people say does actually have a high skill cap.
Yeah, a very, very high skill cap. That means that basically you can't really make many mistakes with it, because if you do make a mistake or you do miss a kite, we've seen someone miss picking up a Hog Rider with the cannon, you basically lose the game off of things like that. So again, very high skill cap because it has such great responses, such cheap responses in a high cycle, but if you do make that mistake, it is sometimes impossible to come back from.
Getting close to sudden death and the Hunter doing a lot of damage, but this is going to be IMJP's game plan. Especially with lowest tower being active, just keep getting one Hog Rider on that right-hand side over and over again for one, maybe two swings.
Yeah, and an excellent defense there with the fireball coupled with the cannon cleaning everything up. Really, really nice defense by IMJP. And yeah, like you said, he doesn't care if he just gets one Hog Rider hit every single time. That's perfect for him. Ooh, and the missed log on the Musketeers.
So that could be big. 2 elixir kind of down the drain. Yes, getting some tower damage, but not doing what they want. And now we have a ton of stuff coming down here. The fireball taking care of those hogs, but we might get, we get 2 nice shots on the right-hand side, and on the left, that Musketeer might get on tower as well.
And a great job of IMJP recognizing all the units that are coming and going and using that Ice Golem to pick up that last Musketeer and the Royal Ghost.
Buffmac with the Hunter Log combination now picking up that Royal Hog, and as we go into sudden death overtime, the big question here is, does Buffmac feel comfortable playing for lowest tower, or does he really need to close this thing out and get the win to feel good here?
I think he really wants to close it out, because that Hog Rider hit can come in at any time and really just kind of ruin your day.
And there you go, a Hog Rider. The Hunter does get it, but doesn't pick it up entirely. That's going to be 2 swings, so huge play right now from Buffmac.
And now Buffmac knows that he has to take a tower at this point.
Down to 766. So Buffmac now preparing from the back, but so much elixir, and again now a Hog Rider. Gonna probably get at least 1 swing, maybe 2 here. And that is a huge momentum shift at this point. Buffmac, the good game,
yep.
log fireball, that is it. IMJP now 1 win away from the reverse sweep for Team Dignitas.
We talk about this 2.6 Hog Rider deck. It's so good. It's so fast at cycling. Your opponents, just especially one that have a 9 elixir card, have a really hard time keeping up with you. And you see this great defense. The cannon to the center with the fireball. That together is 7 elixir, cleaning all this up with the Hunter, with the Royal Ghost. Just an incredible positive elixir trade for IMJP. And one of the things we look at going into this next game with Surgical and IMJP is you could hear the bench of Liquid talk about how you must play conservative, you must play patient, especially against this man.
So versatile, so talented IMJP. We've seen him even with the 1v1 struggles. Now he has been swept 4 times in a row in 1v1. And here we are coming up in King of the Hill, and he continues to shine when the pressure's on.
Yeah, you could not be more correct, Rich. IMJP now at 7-1 in King of the Hill. Surgical Goblin at 1-3, however.
And this is it, everybody. This is a huge, huge game for both squads. The winner of this game takes the entire match and really changes their fortune right now. It's the chance to go either positive or negative in overall win rate or overall standings for Dignitas. And if Liquid wins here, they even their record. If not, they fall to 2-4.
Yeah, and you know that IMJP wants that 1v1 setback. Looks like Surgical's running some sort of minor P.E.K.K.A. poison control probably, and IMJP is most likely running that, I was going to say Royal Hog's 3 Musketeers deck, but maybe not.
P.E.K.K.A., very interesting choice here. So now we see 2 of those and a Magic Archer. So IMJP continuing to show his versatility. Let's see what we've seen him run here so far at CRL.
I mean,
Graveyard Poison Eye Tower, Prince Bait, Royal Hog P.E.K.K.A. Poison, Minor Poison, an off-meta Hog deck, Hog Tombstone, Valk Royal Hogs, Lava Loon. It's been all over the place.
Yeah, it's so hard to game this guy and figure out his strategy and what is best to play against him and what's best to ban against him.
Although very nice here, the Miner doing a lot of damage on the right-hand side, so Surgical Goblin staying calm as he does and doing some very nice work here in the opening minute.
Yeah, another positive elixir trade for IMJP, and Surge being very, very patient with that P.E.K.K.A, which we know is one of the most important things when playing P.E.K.K.A.
So now responding with a P.E.K.K.A of his own, and the E-Wiz behind going to definitely slow down those swings from that big boy.
But a great, just a hair off on that Magic Archer placement by IMGP. Would have been really nice to clean up that Electro Wiz.
Big girl, excuse me, from
Yes.
the P.E.K.K.A. She wears that armor so well. So now as we enter double elixir time, it is Surgical Goblin with a very slight lead. The battle's been entirely on the right-hand side. We've had some skirmishes on the left-hand side, but no one's gotten through, and now the split hogs at the river.
Yeah, nice use of the Ice Spirit and Minions to clean that up, leaving the left tower undefended, knowing that he's going to have to focus on the right, IMJP is. And look at that one Skelly kiting that Royal Ghost.
Wow, and taking that Royal Ghost all the way out of contention, but still damage being done. The question here is, will the Magic Archer, again, this is now twice where the Magic Archer has been just a half step away from being all the way productive.
And Surgical is doing such a great job of getting that poison in every single time he sees any value there, just chipping it away at that tower and keeping IMJP on his toes.
This gets very interesting, though, Andrew. Look at this. Surgical Goblin doing good damage on the right-hand side, but really, now with the Royal Ghost getting through, interesting, IMJP choosing to electing to let that Royal Ghost go uncontested, and now he's behind on both towers. I was going to say that this was a single tower versus double tower battle.
I was going to say that IMJP could have just dropped his P.E.K.K.A one tile to the left, and he would have kited the Royal Ghost and Surgical Goblin's P.E.K.K.A, really being able to play a little bit more effectively, not having to drop the Mega Minion, however, now at an even larger elixir disadvantage.
So trying to stop these Royal Hogs is Surgical Goblin, although he does have a pretty significant lead on both sides. As you said, playing conservatively, playing defense, and it looks like at this moment, unless Surgical Goblin makes a mistake, IMJP definitely in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, and you know with IMJP dropping the P.E.K.K.A in the back, he's trying to change up what's working, because what he's been doing this match hasn't been working that great.
So Surgical Goblin also choosing to let his right-hand tower take some Royal Ghost damage now. Going to be interesting to see if that is too much. The Electro Wizard stopping most of that damage, but now down to 584, so things getting very tight here in sudden death overtime.
Oh, and having used that Fireball on defense there is not ideal. Miner getting on top of the tower, just chipping away, and now we are within log Fireball or log poison range.
And it's the E-Wiz picking up the Royal Ghost on the right-hand side. He needs to stop this last bit of Royal Hog work. This is going to get very, very tight here with the Fireball down.
Early.
Oh my God! He steals it at the last second! IMJP with the reverse sweep, taking things for Dignitas. It looked like Surgical Goblin had everything sewn up here for Team Liquid, and he cannot believe it.
We felt it here at the Death Bridge. We saw that poison come down and felt like it was a bit too aggressive, and IMJP doing what he does, recognizing the elixir commitment, going all in. Royal Hogs, Fireball, and the win for Dignitas.
Oh my God, the whole room is stunned from wall to wall. I don't think anyone can believe what just happened right now.
Wow, such great gameplay by both of these guys, never giving their opponent more than an inch. However, Surgical just seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Don't go towards the light, my brother. He did it a little bit early. Poison comes in, IMJP capitalizes, and now Dignitas taking the win and securing their position in the playoffs as of right now.
What an unbelievable photo finish. We need to go back and take a look at that thing again. And you know, we talked a moment ago about Surgical Goblin choosing to allow that Royal Ghost to get tower damage earlier. Here we're seeing the Royal Ghost on the left-hand side. IMJP lets it through. You know, I guess trying to do a little bit with the Mega Minion, but not much. And this right here seemed like it was the game. Like Surgical Goblin had this thing completely sewn up. But he also chose to let a Royal Ghost through. Here's the finish. Does not have enough to pick up those Hogs. Trying to get his Miner down. Hog Fireball. Royal Hogs Fireball. That is it. You see the look of elation.
Look at that.
IMJP cannot believe what just happened.
And neither can his coach or his team. All of them are blown away. IMJP taking out what many regard as the best player in the world in King of the Hill after getting swept by him in 1v1. As you said, reverse sweep. And now he takes 3 more notches on his King of the Hill belt.
Who cares if you're getting swept over and over again in 1v1 when you show up in King of the Hill like this, it really doesn't matter
It sure
at that
doesn't.
point. And of course, who else would be standing by with Christy St. John? It's the golden-haired golden boy from Barcelona, Spain. I am JP.
Thanks, guys. I am JP. How? It seems like you play better when the pressure is on, losing early and then coming to take it. How do you do that?
Que te está preguntando cómo puedes haber hecho eso de perder primero, pero cuando la presión estaba sobre ti, has estado ahí.
Bueno, la verdad que está bastante triste al perder el 1 contra 1. Su chica me ha jugado en un nivel increíble, me ha jugado a la perfección. Y al saber que era yo el último hombre para no fallar a mi equipo, pues digo, voy a ponerme las pilas, sé que puedo y nada, pues adelante.
He says that he was sad because he fails in 1v1 while his team win in 2v2, but he says, I know that it's difficult, I'm the last man and I'm going to do it.
I have to ask, that difficult matchup, I mean, especially the Expo against the Golem, tell me about the mistakes your opponents made that you capitalized on.
Que el matchup más impresionante ha sido el de Ballester contra Golem. ¿Qué has hecho para poder ganar ese matchup?
Pues sabía que era muy complicado, sabía que tenía golem todo el rato para solamente la ballesta. Ha habido un momento que me ha tirado Baby Dragon por detrás, le he tirado un mago de hielo y sabía que me tiraría la bola de fuego. Justamente al tirarme la bola de fuego sabía que no tenía elixir, le metí la ballesta y a partir de ahí se comió daño y luego ya a defender.
He knows that he always have the golem against his ballesta Expo, but he used the Ice Wizard to bait his Fireball, and when he used it, he knows that he has no elixir for Golem. He used his bow, he take damage, and just defend to win the match.
Great win. Muchas gracias for talking to me. Back to you guys.
I don't even know what to say at this point. Thanks, Christy. I am JP. I would say he's the single most clutch player across both, at least across EU, if not across both EU and North America.
I mean, there's this term that I've been thinking of talking about, and it's Royale IQ, and I believe that IMJP has the highest level of it. It's just his decision-making in the game, understanding his opponent's cycle, knowing when to take advantage of it, now pushes G2 pushes Dignitas right below G2 into third place and taking third place, claiming it over SK and Allegiance, who are still tied at 3-3. And now Team Liquid looking to 2-4 in 6th place. They have got to be shocked about their position, and they also got to be shocked about how that match just went down.
So tight, of course, with possibility of a 7-7 team making the playoffs, you think that maybe they have at most 3 more losses they can afford here in the European region. And up next, we have 2 teams, both of whom performing very, very well. It's going to be G2 against Allegiance.
You might say, please sir, may I have another? And I say, but of course. In our next featured match, the French phenoms of Allegiance look to make a statement against second-ranked G2 Esports. Will the wise veteran Donkey Kong help Allegiance escape the middle of the standings? Or will Canario keep G2 amongst Europe's elite? The time for answers has come.
Our second match today features 2 fantastic teams. G2 Esports currently in 2nd place, but after the earlier win, Dignitas nipping at their heels, up against Allegiance, who at 3-3, their fate kind of rests on today's match.
Yeah, both these guys have a lot to gain and a lot to lose. As we hop over and look at Allegiance's roster, we've got Donkey Kong, Doberman, Lupanji, and Wiko. No changes there. Interested to see who's going to slide into what position. And then, of course, G2 on the other side. Oh my goodness, did I just spot a Faye? Fairchu, Sheer, and Canario, and the legend, Faye, the legendary Faye, who they've been talking about as their strongest player, making his CRL debut today.
Faye back here in the lineup. We saw him earlier in the season, but finally, I bet G2 is very happy to have him back here today. And here to speak about that, and of course their overall strategy, it is the coach Verico standing by with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. So, big question of today. What can we expect to see from Faye?
Well, I expect to not see him because he's only in the King of the Hill. But if we see him, probably 3-0. I think he will end the King of the Hill alone. I reserved him to the King of the Hill, but well.
So he's only in King of the Hill, and if he has to play in King of the Hill, then he's definitely going to sweep.
Yes, for sure. He will be first, I'm pretty sure, so yeah.
Very confident, and you've played Allegiance before many times, you've scrimmed with them, so do you think you know their play style, confident you can beat them?
Yes, we know them a lot because we have played with them in Spain in some other leagues. So we're not confident that. I mean, they are really strong players, but I think that we will definitely beat them.
Fighting words. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. Faye, of course, just back from his university entrance exams in Spain. So maybe getting a little bit of time to get more acclimated, get ready, get back in the swing of things here at CRL. Of course, might make an appearance in King of the Hill. So let's find out what they actually do have in store for their lineups when we go inside the war rooms.
Mon épisode préféré. Bon les gars, allez. Aujourd'hui, je ne vais pas vous parler de discours habituels, hein, les decks, etc. Bah, vous les connaissez, donc il n'y a pas besoin de reparler. Je vais juste vous parler de motivation, parce que c'est clairement ce qui est le plus important dans une game. La motivation, c'est au-dessus du niveau individuel. On a besoin de se motiver entre nous, on a besoin d'être à fond, de soutenir les uns les autres, et c'est ça qui va être vraiment très important dans ce match, comme dans tous les autres matchs. Alors, on l'a vu, les matchs, ça peut aller jusqu'à la dernière seconde. Le match de Liquid, on l'a vu juste avant. Bah, maintenant, ils sont dans la merde parce qu'ils ont perdu. Mais on a vu Dignitas qui commence à s'envoler, il ne faut pas les lâcher. Donc on ne va pas les lâcher, on va rester concentré à fond. On va jouer toutes nos games à fond. Un match, c'est 2 victoires. On peut perdre un set, c'est pas grave. On reste tous concentrés, on s'en fout de la défaite. On passe à travers et puis on se concentre sur les matchs d'après. Donc il n'y a pas de défaite, les gars. Parfait, on avance, on se motive ensemble, on joue ensemble et puis on va win ensemble. Ça va? Ouais. À 3? 1, 2, 3, energy!
Vale. Vamos a repetir el line-up de las anteriores 2 semanas. 2 contra 2 están muy fuertes, Siri y Ferchu, 1 contra 1 Canario. Faye, tú entras para el final de Gil, ya está aquí por fin. Pero tengo una mala noticia. Malkaide me ha dicho que le ha ganado a Lupan 1 contra 1 y que quiere que lo ponga al partido. Este no podía, pero el próximo no sé cómo voy a esquivarlo. Él es el que manda, así que tenéis que hacerlo muy bien para que no podamos matar a Malkaide. Por lo demás, ya sabéis, hoy 2-0, 2-0 y a Malkaide le decimos, lo siento, estamos funcionando muy bien. Sí. ¿Todo ok? Sí. ¿Listo? Okay. Vamos, para adelante. Vamos.
Peanut butter and jelly, macaroni and cheese. These are just some of the dominant duos that have made history. Who will be the next terrific tandem? Allegiance and G2. The 2v2 showdown is now.
Thank you, King. Of course, I haven't had lunch yet, so now I'm hoping we get a sweep so we can get out of here very quickly, but I don't think it's coming because we have 2 fantastic squads in G2 and Allegiance.
Yeah, we got Lupanji and Wiko coming out for Allegiance. No surprise there, coming off of the loss from Queso, that 11 HP miscalculation with the tower there, the King Tower, and their opponents, Fairchu and Sheer. And I misspoke earlier, Faye not making his debut in 2v2 or in CRL, but his debut for me, as I am new to the desk here. But Sheer and Fairchu have been playing together, not finding a ton of success in 2v2, but it's only midway through the season, Rich.
And the card bans once again becoming the midpoint season meta, Tornado and Lava Hound.
Yeah, the balloon is still able to be coupled with the golem, so we see that taking the Lava Hound out of play gets rid of that nasty clone problem that we had in week 1, and also just the ground game. It seems that these pros like to keep 2v2 on the ground.
So again, to remind you of our stakes, G2 with a chance to secure 2nd place. Of course, with a loss today, they'd be tied with Dignitas, and then 3-3 Allegiance trying to find their way forward. So it's G2, Sheer, and Fairchu at the top of your screen, Lupanji and Wiko at the bottom for Allegiance. Interesting here, the coach talking about what their plan is with G2 for Sheer and Fairchu, really hoping that today is the day they put everything together.
Yeah, they were talking about some of the big adjustments they've had to make here in 2v2, really figuring out the way to kind of maximize their potential. Now, in 2v2, communication is always the word of the day, and Allegiance is definitely on boat with that. They're trying to figure out ways to change their gameplay. For instance, their players in 2v2 drag and drop cards instead of placing them so that their teammates can see exactly when and what they're placing.
And I heard you having that conversation, Lupanji saying he does not drag and drop in 1v1.
Yeah, it's just quicker. You can obviously respond much quicker if you don't have to drag your figure across the screen. However, when you've got a teammate to work with, it is much more important to do that.
The miner distracting the Magic Archer who's getting eaten up by that poison. So the Magic Archer doing some work, but not as much as you'd hope.
Yeah, and the big thing with the whole dragging and dropping is to avoid those numerous times we've seen in 2v2 where they double drop units in the same place and they get cleaned up by 1 spell, or where a team will throw down 2 spells in one position to clean up something that 1 spell could have cleaned up.
So for Allegiance, Lupanji and Wiko, both of them competitors before Clash Royale. Wiko, of course, mentioned before, was rated top 10 in his age group in tennis back in France. Lupanji, a huge poker player. His biggest single-hand victory is 800 euros, about $935.
Wow. That's incredible. That's better than anything I've ever won at a poker table. So that means that he's probably incredibly just calm under pressure.
Well, also good at reading your opponent, and that's a big part. You know, we've talked before about the chess aspect of Clash Royale, but there's definitely a poker aspect of it as well. Not just choosing your decks and choosing your hands, getting that read, but also getting the read on what your opponent might do in-game.
Yeah, and the way that they adjust in-game. And as we get into Week 5 here, we see so many of these bans in the 1v1 and King of the Hill sets are catered directly to their strongest, or their opponent's strongest single-head player.
So right now, with 25-ish seconds down in double elixir time, it is Allegiance, the Frenchman, in the lead, but a Miner in the back with some bats, definitely taking things nice and tight. And G2, just as I speak, start taking the lead here.
Yeah, just the miners for both teams here really bringing it home. And double miner on that tower, that's a lot of damage coming through. G2 has got to figure out a way to mitigate that damage, or else these guys are going to be trading miners, and Allegiance has 2 of them.
So now it's G2 getting things very close. Both teams, oh, and there comes the fireball in a little bit faster. Can the rocket? Yes, it does. We are going to sudden death.
4 seconds to fly through the sky for the rocket, makes it just in time. Great play by Allegiance.
Yeah, they were not going to make a miss time on a spell this time around at the last second. We almost saw it again, but great play by the Frenchman.
And an excellent cannon cart in the pocket. Just a second late on the Prince and Valkyrie to pick it up is G2.
So now, interesting things to look at here as far as the spells as we are into our sudden death overtime.
That Miner in the back.
Miner in the back doing some significant damage. Andrew, do you think the rocket being able to get so much direct damage on that tower gives Allegiance the advantage here in this overtime?
You know, you'd like to think so, especially if they use it in a situation like that just passed there with the Inferno Dragon coming across the tower. However, the rocket does take 4 seconds and 6 elixir. You don't want to find yourself in a position where you need 11 HP more damage and you've got nothing in cycle.
Now the Miner does not get picked up by the guards, so we're in a situation where it's starting to get very, very close. We are not quite in double rocket range, but not far off as well.
Yeah, and that coupled with poisons, you know, is going to be enough. So G2 here really starting to feel the pressure in this set, knowing that they need to take this first game right now.
So playing the Tombstone at the river to stop the cannon cart, hoping they can get a little more damage. And with that log, now we are getting to the point where, yes, are within double rocket range.
And you got to imagine that was a missed fireball there. Just getting the Mega Minion, not cleaning up the Zappies when you know those Zappies go down immediately with a fireball.
So at this point, the question is, how does Allegiance want to play this? I mean, how much they spend on defense? Are they going to start trying to spell cycle out? And now they are within death range. The rocket, a bit of an overkill, but doing its job. Allegiance taking game number 1 of 2v2.
Yeah, 4 miners on the field going back and forth and back and forth. It was about who could pick them up the best and create a better counter push. And Allegiance just did a better job there, just barely squeezing by in that regulation play to get that rocket off and push it into overtime and push it to what ended up being a game win for Allegiance.
Such a tight finish here. As the last few seconds tick away, you can see right at 4 seconds that rocket goes. Just barely sending us through. And again, this is a situation where this time, you know, there was that last match where it looked like Allegiance probably would have won the whole thing against Queso had they not made that slight misplay. Here, they get it off just in time and take the victory.
Yeah, and it wasn't such a huge play because there weren't Royal Hogs in this, but there still was a massive difference in building Elixir spent. I believe Allegiance spent 24 and G2 spent maybe a fourth of that. So let's see if that actually comes into play here in game number 2.
Game 2 on its way. G2 versus Allegiance. So all 4 players pretty close in age. Wiko and Lupanji both just 19 years old. Sheer also 19. Fairchu, the old man here at 20.
If he's old, I don't know what that makes you and I, Rich.
Oh, don't tell everybody, please. So Zappies split in the back and cleaned up on the 2 on the right-hand side with the fireball. We have not seen Zappies as much as of late. You know, there's been some debate as to whether they are still as valuable split or if they're more of a response troop.
Still such a powerful troop. I think they're just trying to figure out with that slight change in mechanics exactly the best way to be utilized.
The Magic Archer play so far from Allegiance really paying off. Both Magic Archers have done tower damage as well as troop damage.
Yeah, it was a really interesting start by it too, because you had G2 Fireball Zappies behind that Magic Archer, probably thinking it was going to get cleaned up by other troops relatively quickly, but it ends up doing a great amount of damage to that tower.
First minute away, and there's about a 400 almost hit point lead here. No, actually even more now with 2 swings of the Valkyrie. Wow, not picking that up. And the Royal Hogs here, do they have a response? Yes, it's the Tombstone.
Rich, I see a Rage spell. I'm very curious to see how that's going to come in. I'm thinking they're probably going to want to drop the Rage as soon as the Golem crosses the river, just to get it directly to the tower. However, that Magic Archer on the Golem is just free damage. That's free money right there.
And the Fireball stopping it. Interesting.
Yep,
so now here
is.
we go. Can this balloon get all the way through? No, double bats. Not going to let it get a full hit on that tower. Very well picked up.
And you had to think Allegiance was slightly seeing that coming, having the Mega Minions and all those bats in hand. They see a Golem coming down without a ton of support. You think maybe a Rage and a Balloon are coming in.
So as we enter double Elixir time, that double Valkyrie hit looking more and more impactful. Down to just 549 on the right-hand side. Really, at this point, it seems like Allegiance can play a lot of defense and just get that down with spells.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. They've got the Tombstone, they've got the Inferno Dragon, they have great responses to the Golem, and they've got the Royal Hogs to create counter lane pressure just in case it looks like G2's building up too much of a train behind their Golem.
So Lupanji and Wiko finding some of their rhythm here as they got more experience together, mounting some fantastic defenses, and it seems like, again, communication being the key, working very well together.
Yeah, and Allegiance doing a great job to have those bats tank for their own Inferno Dragon, keeping it alive for so long. Now, G2's dropped another Inferno Dragon, but it doesn't matter. It's a little late.
So 17 seconds left. The Royal Hogs there trying to elicit a response, but as soon as we get some more spells down, yeah, that's going to be it. Log, Poison, Fireball,
wow.
And Allegiance with a fairly clean victory here in 2v2.
One thing I recognize that Allegiance did that we haven't seen a ton of, or maybe they just haven't done it as effectively, was using that Magic Archer to clean up the Tombstone on the other side of the map for their Royal Hogs. Then cleaning up the Skellies with that AoE shot. Just a really, really great use. And the Magic Archer, as we found so many times, was the MVP for Allegiance today. And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
right there,
really
Rich.
beautiful play, and just got enough damage on the right-hand side. You know, probably wasn't necessary to get that one hog hit with all the spells coming down, but every hit point helps. And right now it helped a lot for Allegiance. The French team out to an early lead. Of course, as we head into 1v1, though, they are up against a guy who has really been standout here at CRL. You know, people who were in the know he's one of the best, and he's shown up here. It's G2's Canario.
The 1v1 showdown is time for the CRL's best to throw down the gauntlet, to stand alone and shout, "I am better than you." In a nice way, of course. Donkey Kong and Canario enter the arena and bring your best.
Here we go, Canario versus Donkey Kong. Canario for G2, undefeated in sets, also 8-1 overall in games in 1v1 against Donkey Kong, who has yet to find a victory here in 1v1.
Yes, yet to find a victory in 1v1 is Donkey Kong. However, he is 5-0 in King of the Hill, and as you mentioned, Canario, the machine, is 4-0 in 1v1 sets and 4-2 in King of the Hill to make him 12-3 overall. When talking about playing against Canario, Donkey Kong was saying he doesn't make mistakes.
And here for our card bans, it's Fireball and Tornado, so nothing really out of the ordinary here.
No, Donkey Kong actually was expecting Tornado to be banned because he was so effective with it last week. So he's actually been prepping for decks that don't involve Tornado. And then with his ban, he is expecting Canario to play decks that he's comfortable with, and he's expecting to counter him.
The veteran versus the standout. Who will take 1v1?
And Rich, this is the next level strategy that you have to have going halfway through the season, where you are gaming your opponent's comfort decks, going to counter it directly with your deck, a deck that might not actually work on paper, but knowing what Canario is comfortable with, Donkey Kong has something up his sleeve today.
Very, very curious to see what that's going to be. So Donkey Kong at the bottom of your screen, Canario for G2 at the top, and 2 Royal Ghosts will pass each other at the river and make their way towards the towers. Very sneaky pickup there with those skeletons.
Royal Hogs are going to get through without any response. The Mega Knight just a second late and honestly misplaced a bit. I know he didn't want to let the Magic Archer connect to the tower, but that was not successful.
Down to 689, and though a fairly big push developing in response, supported by that Inferno Dragon, will it be enough to get through? I don't think so, especially with that Mega Minion.
And I think that Donkey Kong is going to look back and wish that he didn't send that miner. Again, just committing a little bit more elixir than probably wanting this early on.
The EU is stopping any more of the bleeding on that left-hand side, but as we get closer to halfway through this round, it is G2's Canario out to a significant lead, and again, Royal Hogs make it to the tower.
Yeah, and Canario, again, recognizing that Donkey Kong had nothing in hand to respawn, and we know that the Royal Ghost, despite doing splash damage, does not do a great amount against the Royal Ghost, and then against the Royal Hogs, and a very late zap from Donkey Kong coming in to clean up those skeletons.
Well, we saw Surgical Goblin earlier play the Royal Ghost against Royal Hogs very, very well, but he had, I think there was a log and maybe an Ice Spirit involved in that as well, so it wasn't a face-to-face matchup. It had some support, and this time we see how it's not an effective response.
Yeah, that Ice Spirit being coupled with the Royal Ghost kind of makes all the Hogs stop in a line and then take the damage from the Royal Ghost on the nose, whereas in this case, he kind of just picked one of the Hogs while the other 3 went to town with that skeleton.
So Canario playing very patient, and of course their coach Verico before the match saying this is what makes him great. He says that Canario might be the single most patient player in all of CRL.
Yeah, I mean, between him and IMJP, the decision-making, the Royale IQ, if you will, is through the roof. And Canario, as Donkey Kong said, doesn't really make mistakes.
Very different in style, though, IMJP and Canario. You know, Canario, very, very patient, very methodical. IMJP is more of a burst player. He sees the opening and takes it.
Yes, that is a very, very great point.
So we're getting into sudden death overtime, and Donkey Kong fighting back pretty well. That left-hand tower, though, probably in significant dance shape. Really big problem with lightning coming in.
Yep.
Yeah, so really all he needs, and now with that on there, lightning should be coming down very, very soon and taking that tower out, sealing the first game for G2 here in 1v1.
Between that Magic Archer and the Royal Hogs, it was just a lot for Donkey Kong to deal with. And Canario, once again, really killing it now, 9-1 in 1v1 games and 13-3 in heads-up play.
You know, you're talking about Donkey Kong knowing where to put, and here we go. Before we get to that, let's take a look at this. Not only is it the Royal Hogs on tower, but you have the Magic Archer in back getting tower target first, so that extra bit of damage here. Everything being put on that tower, and that's a very difficult place to come back from.
Yeah, everything kind of went wrong all at once for Donkey Kong right there. The Magic Archer locking on right before he drops the Mega Knight, dropping the Mega Knight off to the side instead of on top of all the Royal Hogs. The Magic Archer's already on the tower. Get those Hogs down as soon as possible.
Well, you're talking about Donkey Kong planning for Canario, but he's such a versatile player. His deck list is really long. We've seen Giant Double Prince. We've seen 3M Royal Hogs, Mega Knight, P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam. We've seen a bunch of crazy stuff. Sorry, a P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam. Right. So it's really hard to put him on something. Another thing about his deck choice for Canario, Andrew, to continue that same idea, is that he plays a lot of the same cards, but with different variants. So we've seen Mega Knight Royal Hogs versus Mega Knight Minor Control. We've seen Royal Hogs MK. We've seen Royal Hogs 3 Musketeers.
Right, and he wins with all of them, which definitely makes it even harder to strategize against. Because Donkey Kong kept talking about, I want him to play a comfort deck, and he did have decent responses with the Inferno Dragon to the P.E.K.K.A., with the Mega Knight for the Royal Hogs. However, Canario just playing very patient, really made Donkey Kong make mistakes.
And now we are seeing potentially another variant coming out from Canario. Very light, very fast here. Already just a 10 elixir cycle, so minor balloon it's going to be for Canario.
Yeah, and getting that miner in after the balloon sent in, re-zapping the target or the Princess Tower to target the miner is a really great play.
So we do get some significant damage on the left-hand side. The EU is stopping any more bleeding on that left tower, but Canario again out to an early lead.
And that one bat coming in and getting that hit that every little bit counts.
So it's minor poison for Donkey Kong against the minor balloon of Canario. We also have not seen the big spell from Canario yet, and there's a zap. So small spell in hand. You gotta wonder, is that fourth card another big spell, or is it something different? Possibly, you know, if I speak too soon, possibly a rocket as that last one?
It could be so many different things. It could be fireball, poison, rocket, could be lightning. All of those spells actually work with this deck.
So now with the zap there as well, it is a 9 elixir cycle for Canario, so a very, very fast deck. He can afford to keep getting that balloon out there as well.
Yep, and that death damage is going to add up. But Canario, oh, there's the Mega Knight.
So no spell there. Yeah, the Mega Knight being the defensive standout, and a very, very nice play here, and it's now Mega Knight against Mega Knight.
That balloon with the bats being supported is actually going to do a good amount of damage, and it's going to stay pretty healthy. That's going to get to the tower, Rich.
It's going to get a drop, and now with the death damage, that's going to be it on that left-hand side. So Canario once again showing up in 1v1. Now he has 28 seconds to play defense here on the left, and it's going to be a lot for Donkey Kong to try to get through.
And you saw it. You saw every single play slowly happening for Canario. I think everyone in the room knew what was going to happen. Donkey Kong definitely being one of them just couldn't stop it.
So those of you at home know we were not trolling. We didn't trying to figure out what that last card there was for Canario. It's the Mega Knight, and ends up possibly being the most important card in the game, saving some big defense at a key moment.
Yeah, and that's one of those big things about even Razor's P.E.K.K.A deck and this Mega Knight deck is that you save that big tank until you really, really need it, or until your opponent's at elixir disadvantage, and you can get it on the field safely and then mount a massive push behind it, as we're seeing right here. The bats coupled with the zap, taking out the minions, the Mega Knight distracted, and tanking for the Princess Tower, and that balloon comes in pretty healthy.
Canario delivering the coup de grace in 1v1, moving his record overall in this set to 5-0. Canario between 1v1 and 2v2 has not lost a single set, and now moving his CRL total win rate up to 16-3.
I mean, he is a machine. You talked about Donkey Kong before the match saying he doesn't make mistakes. The way that I'm going to beat him is by getting him to play a comfort deck and then countering it. And then you saw Canario just cannot be countered. He doesn't have a comfort deck. He seems unstoppable, Rich.
Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. We will find out here in King of the Hill. Both teams now going to nominate 3 players, each player with just 1 life, 1 opportunity to play and show up for their team. And, you know, we've seen different variants for Allegiance. Will G2's Faye make an appearance here in King of the Hill? We'll find out right now inside the War Rooms.
Du coup, pour la line-up, Zach, tu commences. Anis. Et Samir. Pour le ban, relax. Donc on a parlé des decks, ils sont tous relativement faibles au Lavaloon, ils sont tous relativement faibles au P.E.K.K.A mineur poison, donc on sait ce qu'on va jouer ça. Comme je vous l'ai dit les gars, tout est une question de motivation. Si on y va en se disant qu'on va gagner, on va gagner. Donc vraiment on y va détendu, relax, et ça va le faire. On se met pas de pression, le match est important, mais on se met pas de pression. On joue comme on sait jouer. Et voilà, derrière, on n'a aucun regret, on se sera dit, bah voilà, on a joué comme on savait jouer, on a joué à fond, on a tout donné. Et voilà, qu'on gagne ou qu'on win, on n'aura pas de regret. Maintenant, moi, je suis persuadé qu'on peut le gagner, donc j'ai confiance en vous. Ça marche? On refait notre petit cri?
Super.
Allez. 1, 2, 3, allez!
Vale, Faye, ya te toca la vuelta. Yo no quería jugar hoy, pero te va a tocar jugar primero, hombre. La verdad, creo que no va a jugar nadie más después de ti, pero bueno, si no te hace de 3-0, Canario. Ya, si tú no te lo hicieses, que ya es como, sí, y si el cielo no fuese azul hoy, pues, quién sabe, Ferchu, el otro día cerraste, nadie mejor para cerrar que tú a día de hoy, está clarísimo, así que te toca a ti, Vans, Royal Hog y Tornado, nosotros seguimos con nuestro confort de Tornado, encima el Royal Hog nos facilita un poco la hora de pensar, así que, tranquilo. Sir, tú me ayudas a mí a pensar los mazos. ¿Todo bien? Venga, a por todas.
We've seen spells cast, troops rumble across the river, and towers obliterated. Yet, I demand more. A measly 2 sets could not decide this epic battle. Allegiance and G2 let's settle it with King of the Hill.
Looks like it's another late lunch for Andrew, myself, and everyone here at CRL, because it's King of the Hill once again. And the big story right now, making his return from his university exams, it is Faye leading off for G2.
Yeah, Faye for G2 leading off against Doberman. Faye has been regarded by the team, by the other players, their coach, their manager, as their strongest player, period. So getting him in King of the Hill, getting him back into the swing of things here at CRL, I'm really excited to see him kick off this first game of King of the Hill.
It's crazy calling him the best player, period, with the run Canarios on. Our card bands here, Tornado again, and Royal Hogs banned by Allegiance.
Yeah, the community has been talking a lot about Royal Hogs and how a nerf needs to be coming in. They're just too strong, but the pros love the card. You wonder if that's actually going to happen or not, Rich.
Well, you know, they already have had their attack time reduced. They seem to be much easier to deal with now than they were before, but who knows what'll happen. But more importantly, what happens right now in King of the Hill? It's G2's Faye at the top of your screen. Allegiance Doberman at the bottom. Doberman so far with a 1-2 game record in the final set.
It's actually the same as Faye, who hasn't been here since, 1-2 game record in 1v1, who hasn't been here since week 1 of CRL. And you got to think the first position in King of the Hill is one of the least pressure situations to be in.
Well, we'll see what Faye has in store after taking a bit of a break from CRL. Apparently his exams went very well, and he's looking to study engineering, hopefully in Madrid.
Yeah, you see the guard and you see the Prince, you think, oh, especially with the Mega Man, you got to think that Faye's running that Golem beat down.
Well, the P.E.K.K.A. being played up front right now.
Oh, he's running a Giant.
And while that's typically a good response to a Giant, that Kite got to be very frustrating for Doberman.
Yeah, hopefully this won't come back hopefully for Allegiance, this won't come back and bite Doberman in the butt. But that P.E.K.K.A. is your best response to the Giant every single time. So probably from here on out, Doberman's going to be holding on to that in his hand until Faye uses that Giant. And that's okay for Doberman, because he can get a lot of tower damage with, pressuring with the Bandit and sending in his Miner, whereas with Faye, he's really relying on that Giant to be his major win condition. Oh, but then here comes a Miner of his own.
So far, the Prince...
Oh, a missed Kite there with the Miner.
Wow, huge moment. And that Prince is going to take tower on the left-hand side, but the right-hand tower for Faye also in significant trouble.
One of those situations where you understand Doberman trying to kite the Prince away with the Miner, but you think it would be much better to just send in the Miner on top of the Prince, make sure he gets picked up, and then deal with it afterwards.
Interesting choices here from Doberman, not having the Elixir to defend against that Prince. Now down to 17-32. Even if he does get that right-hand tower down, looks like a lot of trouble here for the Frenchman.
Yep, and that very first swing being on the Hunter, probably wishing it went on the Giant.
So problem after problem after problem for Doberman. And Faye got to be feeling really good about these opening plays here in his CRL return.
Yeah, that Prince coupled with the Hunter just did so much work in that clean defense. And here we go, Prince on the tower again. Electrowiz comes in, but that's not the best way to defend a Prince.
Giant in the pocket doing some nice tank work. And it's going to be at least 2 towers down, defending hopefully just for pride not to get this 3.
Wow, and Doberman knows there's no even point defending. Why? Just it's too much. Faye coming out swinging, taking the very first game here in King of the Hill, coming back to CRL in fashion.
The future Madrid hopeful scientist engineering a fantastic performance, and it all started right here. He saw the aggressive P.E.K.K.A. play and knew he had an opening, kiting it all the way around and getting a nice bit of damage here on that left-hand tower.
Yeah, and it felt like Doberman there might be in a position playing that kite so well. However, Faye adjusted fantastically. You see the missed kite with the Miner here from Doberman. Ends up just being Faye's game. Those small misplays throughout, and actually some big misplays, ended up costing Doberman that very first game. Lupanji coming in now for Allegiance, trying to redeem that first loss.
So making his King of the Hill debut is Faye in his return, and so far it seems like there's no rust on the wheels. Everything's spinning nice and smooth as he gets his first victory in his first appearance in King of the Hill.
Yeah, Lupanji here, however, though, is 1-2 in King of the Hill, but is even at 4-4 in his head-to-head record.
Game number 2 on its way.
Oh, and a quick hog coming out.
Yeah, no wasting time getting the hog on the tower. The miner in response. A slight lead for Lupanji, who starts off as the aggressor, potentially playing some 2.6.
Yeah, potentially doing that. And then you wonder with Faye if he's going to play some Three Musketeers here, regarded as maybe the best Three Musketeer player in the entire world. We've seen them show up a lot here in CRL over the last couple weeks.
So very interesting, Andrew. We have not seen the 2.6 cycle Hog Rider deck a ton at CRL. Of course, very common in people playing at home, whether it's their challenge or some people for their ladder play. You know, it's a question of this deck making its appearance against professionals who've probably played against it hundreds of times.
Yeah, and now we've seen it twice in one day, and he sees... Faye knows exactly what Lupanji is running, and Lupanji here is probably going to try to pull off the double kite to get the balloon, if it does come in from Faye, to his King Tower. However, he's got it. Faye's actually spent all of his elixir on defense, and now has just got the Lava Hound on the tower.
And that's a lot of damage on the right-hand side, and with the Musketeer, that's going to be tower on the right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't see a response, though, with the Musketeer being out of cycle for Lupanji, but this being such a quick cycle deck is able to get back around to it. Might just be a straight-up tower trade here with the miner in for taking for those pups.
Yeah, left-hand tower going to drop as well, so 20 seconds away from double elixir time. You gotta wonder if Lupanji here, as we get into this extra time, if this is gonna be a tough spot for him.
I think losing a tower that early on in a 2.6 deck. Now, I honestly don't run and haven't run the 2.6 Hog Cycle deck a lot, but I do know that this isn't the best position for him to be in. Lupanji is probably gonna have to figure out a way to keep pressure up by pushing the King Tower, but that's not something he wants to do.
Now, here's an interesting note, though. If you look at Faye's deck, not a ton of responses to the ground attack. So not a lot of great ways to pick up that Hog Rider as well.
Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. He's going to push the Princess Tower here, and then once those units are down to protect it, you wonder if he's going to also push the King Tower to create dual pressure so that Faye can't just keep stacking behind this Lava Hound as he's doing right now. And that's a lot of units to clean up for a deck that doesn't have a lot of responses. He misses the kite on the Valkyrie, but does pick up the Inferno Dragon. And that's just a ton of damage. What are you going to do to stop it? You got another Lava Hound down. You just fireballed. You don't have enough for a cannon.
Well, I guess that's the response right there. Put the Hog Rider, and now the Valkyrie, probably the best response that Faye has for that Hog Rider.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying, was with Lupanji, he's got to figure out a way to keep pressure up, or else Faye's just going to get a massive downhill push on him, and he did. He just didn't have enough responses. Whether it was the very first Musketeer being out of cycle on his first tower, or when it came down to that very last push and just not having enough elixir and enough cards to do all the damage that he needed.
2 up, 2 down for Faye. The expectations were high on his return, and so far, he has not disappointed.
Yeah, playing very calm, intelligent Clash Royale here. You see the Fireball comes in, and you've got a completely healthy Lava Hound, and also this Inferno Dragon. While it is still tanking for the Princess Tower, gets it down to 194 health.
And part of how, with all these big, heavy troops on the board, you know, for Lupanji trying to decide when do I play this Hog Rider, but as you said, so few responses defensively, he has to spend so much, cannot find an opening to spend that 4 elixir.
He's got an Ice Spirit and a Musketeer and a Fireball that actually shoot up. Otherwise, he's just kind of left wanting.
So very tough for Lupanji's situation, but feeling good is Shear's younger brother, Faye, in his return to CRL. And now he is just 1 game away from taking the sweep, but across from him is one of the biggest veterans in Donkey Kong. Allegiance in a tough spot here. Remember our ban cards, Royal Hogs and Tornado. And you see that board on the left-hand side, that's 2 G2 logos in a row. 1 more ends this thing.
Yeah, and Donkey Kong has never lost in King of the Hill. However, he's never won in 1v1 sets. He's never won a set in 1v1, excuse me. And Faye here is just in the best position ever. He's already done so much for his team. Obviously, he wants to close it out for him, but he knows if he doesn't, he's got 2 more players.
I was going to say, is this a bit of a troll with Faye looking like 2.6 in reverse, but no, now the bats show us it's not going to be that deck.
Donkey Kong coming out with the Lava Hound, and now we see Faye playing his bread and butter in the 3 Musketeers.
So this is the question. Can Faye continue to live up to the reputation he came in with? His coach saying he's one of the best, and now playing the deck he's known for. What's going to happen?
I was going to say, he doesn't have a lot of responses with the Fireball and the Bats out of cycle and only one Musketeer to that side. That balloon is going to connect.
A lot of damage there, but still, look at this. A lot coming down the left-hand lane. The Fireball, though, will clean it up.
Great Fireball there, but now he has no response unless he can get a Tombstone down in time.
The Tombstone does not make it. Maybe a predictive log there, expecting some sort of ground response. Possibly the Tombstone does not get played. So now with a minute 30 down, only about 200 hit points, 300 hit points-ish separating these two players.
And so now with Faye recognizing the deck that Donkey Kong is running, he's got to be very, very careful with his cycle, making sure that he keeps his balloon and his bats. Or excuse me, keeps his Fireball and the bats for the balloon.
Yeah, Lavaloon, probably one of the toughest matchups for anyone. You know, it's every time someone posts a deck guide, the #1 question is always, yeah, but what about Lavaloon?
Yeah, how do I beat Lavaloon? And this is a great job of Faye recognizing that it's a good time to send in a Hog on the weak tower.
So the bats and the Fireball, will it do enough? It does stop, so we will get some damage, though. The death damage not going to happen, but the Pup's now taking that down to 352.
Yeah, very, very close neck-and-neck battle here. Both these guys playing great defense. Hog Rider's going to come in, probably going to take the tower right now, but then he's got to deal with this Lava Hound push in return.
So he does take tower. The question is, can he hold off this Lava Hound push? Probably going to see the balloon coming behind it. Fireball, very, very nice, but the zap does not get both Musketeers. The tower on the left-hand side is going to fall. So now it's all about what happens on the right-hand side of this board.
Yeah, back to 0-0 here in the third game of King of the Hill with everything riding on it for Allegiance. Great log and perfect timing on the Hog.
So the Hog will get at least, looks like, 2 swings. Yes, it does. The Valkyrie, the Tombstone probably the best response Donkey Kong has, but the Valkyrie not bad as well. Just doesn't quite have the damage to stop it.
Nice high Musketeers, recognizing Fireball being out of cycle, taking out the Valkyrie there, but that balloon is healthy and on its way to the tower. It's going to hit.
The balloon does get a drop, and now we have a swarm all over it. So that is a ton of damage. And remember,
wow,
even if Faye can play perfect defense here, if he does not catch up, we are in a lowest tower situation in King of the Hill.
And that log is not where he wanted it to go. I get it, you got to play the predictive log, but it was also a second late, so I think he should have held on to it there and then placed where the Tombstone exactly was.
So the question now, can the 3 Musketeers, or at least one of his responses, find a way to deal with that balloon? So far it has been fantastic. And Donkey Kong playing nearly picture-perfect Lavaloon most of the way through here with these pushes.
Really great zap there, waiting until the exact perfect moment. Still doesn't get a hit with the balloon, but does bring it down to 832.
So this time, Faye getting a look at where that Tombstone is beforehand, choosing not to throw the log down, and that push gets completely prevented from doing any damage on the right-hand side. Big blow here against Faye.
And now you wonder, you see Faye is continuing to repeat the exact same transactions, and Donkey Kong is catching on, and that is literally going to be maybe the reason of the game right now.
That's it right there. Wow. Unbelievable. Notice this time not playing the Lava Hound, switching things up, knowing he had a mini tank on the board, and sliding that balloon through.
Yep, and keeping the elixir for the Fireball. Faye kept playing the 3 Musketeers in the same spot, and on the other side of that, I was wondering if Donkey Kong was going to continue to play the Tombstone in the same spot, and Faye was going to finally get it with that log. But as you can see right here, that balloon staying healthy, the Lava Hound pops, and it gets just enough time to get 1 shot off, and then you've got about 9 units left on the field.
The hard thing here is having no building response to distract that balloon. No way other than damage, no way to keep it off your tower. And a very good deck choice from Donkey Kong, probably maybe putting Faye on his bread and butter, on his 3 Musketeers for that final game.
Yeah, really, really great play by Donkey Kong. His strategy working out a little bit better in this set than it did in 1v1, but now he's back up against Canario, and it feels like we were just here, Rich.
Oh, Canario just coming off yet another 1v1 sweep. The guy, so far, his head-to-head win rate at 14-3 overall. So can he keep it going here in King of the Hill? So running it back from that 1v1 set. And, you know, even though there are so many fantastic players here in the European region, if Canario gets the victory here, it's going to be hard-pressed not to say he's the best player right now in Europe.
I mean, again, that will put his record at 15-3 in head-to-head matches. Donkey Kong, however, has never lost a game in King of the Hill.
Yeah, on a 6-0 run in King of the Hill, or maybe, am I wrong? 6-0 run here in King of the Hill. You know, Faye putting up some fantastic play there, but just up against a very difficult matchup with that Lava Loon deck.
Yeah, and we're probably going to see Three Musketeers bridge spam here. Some sense the Hunter's so good at taking down tanks. People forget. People don't forget. People just don't like to use the Hunter because he's so squishy, but when used correctly is so powerful.
A lot being committed on the right-hand side here for Canario, and it does pay off, but he will still be potentially... Nope, takes a slight lead here, and that Valkyrie being left totally alone on the left-hand side, taking the tower down to 1871.
And a Cannon Cart Valkyrie Lava Loon deck, probably. Very interesting. Maybe no balloon, but just, yeah, probably not now, but very interesting deck.
So there we go. It looked like for a second, it looked like that flying machine might sneak through, but the Hunter doing damage, picking it up. So far, kind of showing up as the defensive MVP for Donkey Kong.
I was going to say, you know, Donkey Kong is going to want to get another pump down as soon as possible, and then on the other turn of that, Canario knowing that's the best time for him to Lava Hound up.
Donkey Kong placing that that pump all the way to the left-hand side, not going, even though he wants to keep it away from that right-hand tower, choosing not to go in front because you could still poison and pick up both of them.
Yeah. Once you've figured out which your opponent's running and where they're attacking, you want to place your pump as far away as possible.
The poison taking care of all those musketeers, so not just that, but now making room for those pups to do a lot of damage on the right-hand side. But can they stop? Just barely stopping the battle ram before it hits tower.
Yeah, great kite there with the battle ram, but a better pickup with the cannon cart. And now we're wondering how Donkey Kong, with his slight elixir advantage, is going to take advantage of that and push himself ahead in damage.
And a lot of troops played there on the right, but none of them quite effectively picking up that miner. So down to 603 is that right-hand tower.
And now's the opportunity. He's got the battle ram and the 2 in the 1 lane. We've got Hunter, the Royal Ghost, the Musketeer on the right. This is a huge push for Canario to stop. That's going to be right tower.
That's going to be right and left tower. Canario kind of getting frozen here for a second.
And that's the beauty of Three Musketeers decks is you take damage throughout, but once you get the elixir lead and you get that great dual lane push, your opponent just doesn't have a response. And Canario now recognizing that Allegiance is going to take it in King of the Hill.
Well, there is still one more left here for G2, but Canario finally kind of faltering here, getting frozen there in that moment. And it just, you know, you can see not a lot of elixir there for him on either side. And the only response he has is the flying machine. Not enough, both towers going down.
Wow.
Very difficult situation to be. Donkey Kong, you know, knowing that it was going to be double elixir time where he could shine, taking the victory, and now moving it to the final 5th match to decide everything. G2 again with the lion's share of that second place on the standings up for grabs here. Of course, Allegiance chance to go 4-3 as we move towards the midway point of the season. That's everything here. The final game of King of the Hill. It's Donkey Kong against Fairchew. So talking about deck variants, Donkey Kong now showing that he is no slouch as well, and you would expect that from a guy who has seen pretty much everything Clash Royale has to offer.
Yeah, and you got to imagine he feels very, very good coming back and taking that back from Canario after getting swept in the 1v1.
So the poison down to do its work on the right-hand side for those 2 musketeers. Does not get them all the way, though. So going to be forced to spend a little bit more there to take those out.
And probably just going to have to take the damage on the nose in the left-hand lane if he wants to support the right. Nope.
Keep in mind, while Donkey Kong is now 7-0, undefeated in King of the Hill games, Fairchew is only 1-3.
And a slight misplay on the Lumberjack there. You always want to make it so that the Princess Tower is attacking the troop that you're defending against. His Lumberjack would have not made it to the tower, but at least not died at the bridge.
So the Hunter going to do a lot of damage on that Giant. It does get, I think, 1 swing there. I couldn't see. The poison, though, taking both that pump and the tower damage. So Very heads-up play here by the 20-year-old from Madrid.
And now with Donkey Kong recognizing that the poison is out of cycle, probably going to try to hold Elixir and drop 3 Musketeers.
Royal Ghost wondering if that maybe was a cycle card to get the Musketeers back in his hand. And there we go. Fascinating matchup. An interesting play with the Miner all the way in the back. A defensive move to pick up some of that Musketeer damage, but catching it just a little bit too early, not getting Princess Tower.
Yep, and it's going to be a really small change, but it's going to be the difference in damage with one shot.
So as we're in double Elixir time, the player's still fairly close, but a slight lead for Allegiance Donkey Kong, who is just one game away from the full sweep here in King of the Hill.
One thing that's been surprising is Fairchew's never used his Miner to go after that pump, and instead has always opted to use the poison, which of course you want to save the poison when playing against 3 Musketeers to poison the 2 Musketeers side. So a lot of interesting decision making here by Fairchew. Not that it hasn't been paying off for him, but just something to note.
And there we finally see the final card for Fairchew. It is the Zap. Looks like getting that poison back in cycle, but a little bit too late it seems here. That right-hand tower now going down very, very quickly.
That was a huge, huge just change of pace with that push there. Not enough to stop it for Fairchew. And Donkey Kong in the driver's seat, feeling great now. 382 damage left on the right tower.
But keep in mind that Donkey Kong's only spell here is that log, so he has to get on tower if he's going to win this thing.
And he has to keep doing the same things that have been working for him the entire match, which is pumping up, maintaining an Elixir advantage, playing good defense, not overcommitting, and right now I think he's going to be rewarded for
it. A big Elixir deficit right now for Fairchew. This is going to be it, the swing, and it's Donkey Kong
banging his chest.
Oh. It is the sweep for Donkey Kong, the reverse sweep. Down to their final player was Allegiance. Donkey Kong, he has been everywhere. Again, he's been 3rd at CCGS in the spring, 7th in the fall. He's been in the King's Cup. He's played for his country in CR Nations. But right here, really feeling it. This one has to be good.
Oh, yeah. Donkey Kong bringing it home for Allegiance, Doberman, Lupanji, and Wiko. And, of course, G2 is shocked. They can't believe what just happened. Taking down Canario, taking out Faye, who seemed so strong in the beginning of King of the Hill. Donkey Kong, however, coming in off of that 1v1 set loss, 1v1 set sweep, and brings it home for Allegiance.
Donkey Kong may be 0-4 in our traditional 2v2 and 1v1 sets, but now moving to 8-0 in King of the Hill. Unbelievable performance, but again, that's veteran play.
Yes, and you see this huge push with the Lumberjack, the Royal Ghost, and the 2 Musketeers, just not enough in Fairchew's hand, Elixir-wise or card-wise, to stop it, and that is where the tables turned. It felt like it was all in Donkey Kong's hands at that point. And then again, the Royal Ghost comes in, not got a lot of great ground responses, you said that early on, cleans it up with the Musketeer, Royal Ghost on tower, raged up, and that is game.
That's not just game, that's game, set, and match. Allegiance taking control in the most important moment. A kind of a swing game here, you know, instead of going 3-4, potentially they are now 4-3, putting them in a really good spot as we get closer to that playoff bubble. And of course, the hero today, Donkey Kong, with that reverse sweep in the closer position. He is standing by with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. Ooh, a reverse sweep. You've never lost a game in King of the Hill. But you did lose the 1v1. I mean, what changed from then to now?
Yeah, I don't know what happened in the 1 versus 1. I was nervous and I was playing so badly. But when the pressure was at its maximum for the King of the Hill, because I knew I was the last player, I play with calm and patience, and that's why I played very well in the King of the Hill and not really in the 1 versus 1.
Gotcha. So it takes pressure to bring out your best game. But not only that, you told me before that you were really prepared. Of course, G2 very confident, but you had the preparedness. Tell me, how did you prep for the King of the Hill?
Yeah, for the King of the Hill, we have like our analysts give us the decks of our opponents, and then yesterday we choose the deck that was perfect for each and every one of them. But today I decided to change my mind and play 3 Musketeers because I haven't played them in such a long time, and I decided to play them, and that paid off.
Going with your instincts absolutely paid off. Congrats. Thank you so much for talking to me, and back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. Another veteran move. You're hearing him talking about making that last-second change, kind of bucking the analysts, going with what he feels, and it pays off. Let's take a look at those standings. Some big movement here, Andrew.
Absolutely. You look at G2 Esports taking the loss and Allegiance with the win are now all tied at second place. G2 Esports, Dignitas, and Allegiance tied at second behind Queso in first at 6-0, and now it starts to become even more heated. With that many teams tied in the second half of the season, you really got to pick it up if you're in the bottom of the rankings.
And of course, it's going to keep heating up here as everything's so close. You can follow all the action by hitting subscribe on the Clash Royale Esports YouTube page, going to esports.clashroyale.com, and of course, swiping over to the Esports tab in your Clash Royale app. And we'll be back on Thursday in 2 days, September 20th, with more action here in the European region. For Andrew Guy, I'm Rich Slayton. We'll see you on Thursday back in the arena.
It has now been 1 month since the first shots were fired in the Clash Royale League, yet somehow every day and every battle brings new excitement and intensity. With each furnace built, prospective champions forge their paths to success. Every balloon carries not just explosives, but hopes of world domination and dreams of the Golden Crown. Today, you have seen true majesty, and you shall see it again. Especially if you subscribe to the Clash Royale Esports channel. I mean, do it already. And remember, you can watch the weather report all day, but you can never truly predict when and where a tornado will come. All you can do is prepare how to counter.